Yo, this is Skye with Sumo Cyco, and we're blowing it up with Capital Chaos TV.
How's it going? This is the Iron Serbian with Capital Chaos TV, and we're hanging out here with Skye from Sumo Cyco.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing good. Did I pronounce it right?
Yeah, you did. Skye from Sumo Cyco. As long as you say it with energy, then you're saying it right.
Well, I think you're all the energy that we need right here.
Thank you.
Currently, you're on tour. You're in Sacramento because you're playing at the Holy Diver with... Who are you playing with?
We're playing with Islander, Butcher Babies, and Nonpoint tonight. It's a packed bill and great bands. Everyone should come here for all of them. They're all amazing.
A 4-band package.
Yes.
And as the tour winds down, you've been on tour for approximately 2 months now. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. And we're in the home stretch now. We've only got 4 shows left. It's kind of a sad thing because we've been having so much fun on this tour. But, you know, I miss my dogs like crazy. So I'm okay with maybe taking a little break and going to see my pups.
And did you bring your pillow? Did you bring your pillow from home for the tour, or?
Oh, we do. I brought pretty much everything from home on our little bus. Whatever we could pack in there, I packed in there. We made this tour bus ourselves. It used to be a 16-passenger minibus, and we kind of reconverted it for our purposes. And it's been a good little tour ride. I've been enjoying it, except for the fact there's no air conditioning, which really sucks in the warm states.
And has there been any crazy fun activities, any mischief on this particular tour?
Well, there's been lots of fun. We've been able to do, we went to the Space Center in Houston. We went to this cool place in Wisconsin called House on the Rock, which if anyone has not looked up, you need to look up this place. It's like your mind is tripping out on drugs without being on drugs. It's just 360 degrees of awesomeness. And, but some mischief that has happened is I unfortunately had left my guitar player at a truck stop for about 3 hours, and then he left our bass player at a McDonald's for about 30 minutes. So mine was way worse, but he also did it too, so he can't completely blame me for being the forgetful one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Stuff happens, right?
Yeah, I know. It kind of sucked because he had a cell phone, thankfully, but nobody wanted to answer it. And if I didn't pull over to make a sandwich, I would have gone to Monroe, Louisiana without a guitar player. Oh. So, but thank God I pulled over and saw that he was not in his bunk and turned around. Yeah.
Has there been any standout cities on this particular tour? Any shows that were just packed beyond belief?
Yeah, well, we just came off Portland, Oregon. That room, Hawthorne Theater, was absolutely packed. Crowd was on fire, stage diving, jumping on each other's heads. Just one of those pure chaotic shows that I absolutely love. And the crowd was there from the beginning, too. They were there for our set. They killed it with Islander. They were there for Butcher Babies and Nonpoint, so it was great. It was really great.
And Portland is about it as far as standout cities?
Oh, no. Of course. There's been lots of standout cities. I remember Flint, Michigan being one of those. Cleveland, I remember having a good time. Baltimore had a great time. Yeah, there's been some great cities, but it's hard when you have 40-some shows to remember them all. But there's definitely been, crowds have been super receptive to us, which is really, really great because a lot of the times with tours like this, where you're the first of 4, a lot of people that come to the shows have no idea who we are. Sure. So it's all about winning those crowds over, all about getting them into it, and what's the most rewarding thing is when somebody goes from doing this position where they're being all tough to this position where they're rocking out. You know, that's the best. So yeah, we were singing a lot of that on this tour, which is great.
Nice. And how familiar are you with the Butcher Babies, Nonpoint, and Islander?
Well, this is our first time meeting Islander on this tour. They had to slip in and replace Cane Hill, which unfortunately had to drop out due to injury earlier on the beginning of this tour. But Butcher Babies and Nonpoint we've toured with before overseas in Europe, and both bands are absolutely amazing to us. And for being, so substantial, Nonpoint being together for 20 years, for them to wear our t-shirts on stage, that means a lot. all the bands have been so kind. And, when you go on a tour and you're a new band, it's kind of like being the freshman in high school, where you're kind of looking up to the bigger bands that have more experience. They've been around the block, they've got the big tour buses, and you're like, oh, I hope they like me and accept me and think we're cool. And there's been nothing but open arms and total embracing, and we're one of them. They don't treat us any different because we're a smaller, indie band. It's like, they treat us just like gold. So super stoked, yeah.
And have you learned each other's songs? Do you have any favorites of theirs?
Actually, I totally have favorites of all theirs. I'm singing along side stage almost every night. How can you not sing along with Monsters Ball with Butcher Babies? And Nonpoint is about to release a new record in August, and so they're playing a couple new songs from their new record on this tour, and one of them is called Dodger Destiny, which is a banger. I can't wait for the rest of the world to hear it. It's going to be probably released pretty soon, but it's so great, and I always do the robot to that song because the rhythms are so great that I just want to do the robot every time I listen to it, so it's great.
There hasn't been any duets? You haven't got an opportunity to go up and sing with the babies? Or?
Maybe now that it's the end of the tour, we might have a little bit more tour prank debauchery of us kind of running into each other's sets and stuff. It usually happens near the end of tour where you start kind of doing that kind of stuff. But I mean, I think with, especially our, we play for 30 minutes. It's nothing compared to the hour they do. But, you run your set kind of like a well-oiled machine. So sometimes it's hard to just completely be, throwing people up and down stage. But I know Butcher Babies has, on occasion, had some of the members of our band and the other bands come on and play bass during their ending, and I've done it too in Europe, where Jason will hand his bass over to whoever's side stage and let them finish out the ending of the show, which can turn out good or bad depending on who he hands it to.
How did you get into music originally? Was it through the television, radio, or your parents?
Well, I listened to tons of things when I was a kid, especially musicals. I was obsessed with being a Disney princess or whatever, that I sang along to all those shows. And when I was in grade 2, I got cast as a princess in the Paper Bag Princess, which is the classiest of all princesses, from a kid's book called The Paper Bag Princess. And I did a performance in grade 2 that awarded me some accolades from the other parents and teachers. And after that, I kind of went into music classes and music lessons, and there was one defining moment where I actually asked to be signed up for snowboarding camp, and my mom missed the deadline, and she felt so bad she signed me up for something else called Pop Stars Camp. And it was in that moment where I met an amazing music teacher that became my mentor. Her name is Ricky Rumble, and that was when I was 12 years old. And once I met Ricky, she not only taught me, songwriting skills and singing skills and stage presence skills, she would take me to her sessions where she would be singing for commercials in the studio and teach me how to, work in a professional recording environment and things like that. So that kind of just started my whole fascination with being a recording artist and writing my own material. And by the time I was 14, I was signed to a record contract. Things just kind of snowballed from there, and I've never really changed my career path since then.
Oh, very cool. And now your new album, which actually came out last year, Opus Mar, it's been pretty well received. Are you surprised by its success?
Oh, well, I'd like to think that all the people that have come out to the shows that have seen us live and bought the record, really enjoy it. I actually got a little email the other day saying that it might chart on Billboard.
Ooh.
Yes.
Very cool.
Which is meaning thanks for everyone coming out to the shows and buying the CDs. But yeah, it's been doing really, really well. And as far as being an independent band and being able to gain as much traction as we have without having, a huge marketing budget and all that stuff, I mean, I'm super grateful. And to me, that's all because of the amazing fans we have and the momentum we've been able to build with our live show and with our online videos and all that good stuff. So for all of you guys watching and listening, that means the most to us because it's helping us, hype things up to get Sumo Cyco out there into the world. And Opus Mar is kind of taking on a life of its own. It's still racing down that track, and but I think we're ready for some new music after this tour. We're probably going to go back in the studio and write some more stuff, because it has been over a year, and I don't like to keep my kids waiting very long for new stuff. So.
And how difficult is it to put the songs in order, and is there a side A and side B anymore?
Well, a side A and side B obviously comes from back in the day with records.
Right.
And so for me, the songs, the order to me only really matters for some momentum for people that may want to listen to the record for the first time. So you kind of want to take people on a bit of a journey when they go, using more train quotes here. You want to take them on a journey because, you want to start off strong. You want to give them some dips, some valleys, just like a live show. And then you want to end it really strong. And Matt Drake, my guitarist, is really great. He's very particular when it comes to putting the order of the songs together for our live set as well as the records. He's very good about having that cadence and that pace, and he understands dynamics, which is really great. And what he's taught me to make our shows and our records flow really well. But yeah, I think that records are really interesting these days because people are moving so much to singles, that they're standalone songs. And there's, like, for instance, I was just listening to Nothing More's record that just came out, and they have a lot of, like, those intros, outros, songs that, like, flow into each other. And that's a band, that thinks about a record versus just thinking, oh, here's just a collection of singles, right? So I think the mentality is really interesting, because some people just think of, like, a standalone song and they just put them in whatever order. And then there's people that think of their entire piece of a body of work as an album, as, like, one kind of cohesive piece. So I think we're kind of in between that. We have definitely like to have the ebb and flows, but at the same time, I think each song has its own kind of personality for itself. So.
Sure. And how do you feel it compares to Lost in Cyco City?
I think it's definitely a well-rounded part two. I think people that fell in love with us for the first record will definitely like Opus Mara as like a follow-up. It kind of takes on its own life where Lost in Cyco City left off. I think there's a few more heavy parts. We kind of experimented a little bit more with some kind of synthy kind of ideas. We had a producer work with us, James LaRock Lockery, who did my favorite records from Skindred, and he really added like this extra kind of digital element to some of the things. It's always like a fine line for us because we want to be able to pull everything off live the way we do on the record. So if you add too much stuff because there's only 4 of us, if you add too much extra stuff, we can't always replicate everything perfectly. So it's about having enough that, because I love production. Production can be amazing, layering vocals upon vocals. That's some of my favorite stuff. But there's only one of me and I can't sing 2 notes at the same time. So you're going to miss out a little bit on that in the live show. So we try to make up for it in energy. But yeah, it's an interesting topic about how much a band can put into the extras in production versus, what they do live. But we try to make sure that when people see our live show that it can translate to the recording and vice versa.
Killer. And how much has changed since the early days of Sumo? And you were 15 when, let's talk about the early days of Sumo. How much has changed in the industry since the early days?
Yeah, so... Well, I think the biggest change for me is going from, a signed Capitol Records artist to going to an indie band. There's lots of differences, but there's lots of things that I learned in my early career that kind of prepared me for what I'm doing now. When we first started Sumo Cyco, we really wanted to just kind of put stuff out online. We didn't actually think of it as a live band at first. We thought of it as a recording project, and we thought of it as a music video project. Me and the guitarist Matt love making music videos, so we just really wanted to take our music and put it to some kind of cool visual thing and throw it out into the universe and see if the interwebs really liked it. And it kind of grew its own life, and we started to get asked to do some shows. And then once we won this competition called Indie Week, which is a great festival in Toronto, we won tickets to Ireland to perform at a festival in Ireland for for free. Like we got to travel there, accommodations, everything. And it gave us this taste of, traveling to other places, which I had missed so much from back in the day when I used to do that a lot for my solo music. We did a tour, an independent tour of UK. And then we just started to gain momentum with our agent and with PR companies to be able to do all these awesome tours. And we've been touring pretty much straight for the past like 3.5 years. And I find it's the absolute best way to make lifelong fans because you create really great relationships. So it's just changed a lot. From our focus used to be definitely just like doing music videos and like being kind of like a YouTube band. But now we're definitely way more focused on the live show and touring and that kind of end of things,
Awesome. And now you were 15 when Billy S came out, right?
Yes.
And you toured with Britney Spears in the United States and Europe, right?
Yeah, we did 50 shows together with Britney, yeah.
What was that world like?
Yeah, it's crazy. Different thing, different era. I mean, what 15-year-old, 16-year-old girl wouldn't want to be touring with Britney Spears when Toxic came out? I mean, that was pretty much every young girl's dream. So it taught me a lot. It got me thrust into, playing arenas at that age. So after that, nothing can really intimidate me that much because I kind of did it all really young and got really used to the life of touring and performing and, to command a stage. And I mean, that helps me today, the shows have definitely, as much as maybe they aren't as big as arenas, I think they've definitely grown in energy and passion. When I perform now, it used to be kind of like this rehearsed thing that I didn't have choreography or anything, but I kind of would just get into the motions and just be singing my songs. Whereas now I've really, I think, perfected the craft of winning people over, of turning, a bunch of songs into this live kind of ball of energy and inviting everyone in the room to be there with me. Whereas at arenas, it's a lot harder to get everybody in the room to feel like one family together because it's so big. Whereas the shows we're doing now, there's this energy and presence in the room that you can't really describe unless you're there. And for me, that's pure living in the moment, and that's purely why I love doing what I do is those moments where you are completely engaged with everyone in the room and they're all having a great time. We're all kind of falling in love with the idea of just live music and rocking out.
And Britney was quite sexual on stage, and you were 15. What kind of impact did that whole performance have on you as a young teenager?
Yeah, I don't know if I was really fazed by that. I mean, I grew up pretty much in the heyday of Dirty by Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears and all these kind of, women starting to take their sexuality into their own hands. And to me, I felt it was empowering. I didn't feel weirded out about it. I mean, today, if you see my live show, yeah, I sure use my sexual energy in a very positive female empowerment kind of way. I think that luckily I've been kind of put in a place where I have control now, especially taking the power back from being kind of in a major label situation where everyone's got their opinions about how sexy you should be or what you should wear and whatever. I'm in a position now where I can control whatever I do, what I do on stage, what I wear, what I look like. And so to me, I feel very empowered to be the woman that I am and to express myself in the way that I do on stage.
Now, yesterday, your president, Canadian President Justin Trudeau, am I right? Said Canadians were polite, were reasonable, but we'll also not be pushed around. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think so. I think Justin's got it right there.
And have you ever experienced hostility for being Canadian?
No, I have not. Usually we get a really good reputation around the world, which is awesome. Everywhere I've traveled, usually people really like Canadians, and the fact that we're from Canada is something I'm pretty proud of, and I think it's a beautiful country, and if anyone has never been, you should come. It's awesome.
And Canada is very supportive towards the arts.
Yes.
You guys pay higher taxes there, but you also get a return on that investment. Would that be?
Yeah, so we have a funding program called Factor, which is kind of like a loan or a grant system, depending on what the situation is for up and coming bands and artists and established artists as well. And it helps keep our Canadian industry alive in the music and the art scene. And we've been lucky enough to receive funding from Factor and the government for our records and our recording costs, which is amazing. So it is a process. So you have to apply, you have to kind of be rated, you have to be approved, all this stuff. But if you can get in on it, it's definitely helped us a lot in our journey as a band.
And you can't just get a grant and then go buy drugs with it. You have to be accountable for what they.
Oh, of course, yes. There's lots of checks and balances to make sure that the money goes to the right place and is supporting the industry and not some bullshit drug habit.
Have you experienced much hostility for being a woman in this industry?
I wouldn't say hostility. I would just say a bit of a misunderstanding sometimes about, I think every woman in the probably planet has experienced what I've experienced, which is, just guys, I guess, thinking that they could just come up to you and just assume that, they could give you a big hug and kiss sometimes, or whistle at you, or call you a certain name. And I mean, I see that, and I am in a situation where I'm at clubs every night where, there is alcohol, people are having a good time, they're partying, I understand that, but there's always lines that can be crossed, and I'm very lucky that when I perform on stage and I have my microphone, I do feel completely empowered that, if anyone's going to holler anything at me or touch me wrong, I can completely call them out in that moment and make sure that, is not appropriate, and the world knows that. But as soon as I get off stage, I think that sometimes when guys feel even more comfortable to come up and maybe give you a kiss on the cheek that you haven't asked for, or rub against you or whatever. And so it's an interesting dynamic because you're trying to have fun, you're trying to engage these people as fans and have a good positive energy, but at the same time you got to make sure they know that that's what's appropriate and what's not. And I do like to get close with my fans. I love talking with them after the shows. I'll share a drink, but you always have to be mindful. And I think guys out there, it's good to know that just because you see a girl on stage who's shaking her booty maybe or having a good time doesn't mean that you can just grab that booty wherever you want. So yeah, we still have a lot of educating to do. I think as globally as women and men interact, and about guys knowing their boundaries. But this industry, I think, sometimes can escalate that just because, like I said, you're in a club environment, everyone's having fun. I'm, kind of, like I said, doing my thing on stage, and sometimes people think that they know you or can associate with you in that way just because they saw you up there doing your thing. So it's, but yeah, I feel like I'm on this tour called the Kings and Queens Tour because we have some really powerful women, and I think anyone who comes to this show should see that, us girls, Butcher Babies, myself, we can rock just as good as the guys, and there really shouldn't be any difference in what we can bring to the music scene, and hopefully people will respect us after the show as well as they do when we're on stage.
Some people have said that the Me Too movement has sort of gone too far. Do you have an opinion on that at all?
I think that people that might say that probably don't understand what the real sentiment of it all is. I think people can sometimes take things out of context, and when we're having controversial kind of conversations, or sometimes necessary conversations about things that make people uncomfortable, I think it can always kind of be pushed or warped in ways that maybe weren't the original intention of what the movement is about. Yes. And so there's things that people will say, I think, that maybe be on the fringes of what we're trying to get at. It's like, you're trying to point a finger at an issue, and so people, they'll be a little too defensive, then realizing maybe there's a reason why these people have brought this up, and maybe I should listen instead of being always listening to respond. You know what I mean? There's definitely a difference between listening to try to understand what someone's going through and listening because you want to defend your position. And I don't think anyone needs to really defend it. I think people need to listen more. I think they need to listen to people that are in marginalized situations or have maybe a story that they haven't been able to come forward and felt comfortable telling till now, and maybe the movement has made them feel a little more empowered to feel like their thoughts are valid. And I think that's a good thing.
Is it difficult to have nails on tour?
Well, if anyone looks at my nails, they are definitely not perfect right now. We got some chipping going on. There is girl problems. I will say I am not one that likes heat. I'm a Canadian girl. I like it when it's a little chilly out. So for me, when I'm in my really hot oven of a bus and I'm trying to get myself together, do my makeup, get my outfit on, and I'm sweating like a pig, and all I want to do is wear like short shorts and a t-shirt, and I got to put on my whole hair and makeup, everything, it's sometimes I wish I could do like, the total minimal thing that my boys do, which is just like jump out and whatever they're wearing and they hit the stage right away. I'm a little bit more of a showman, I guess. So for me, the whole makeup and outfit thing is very important for what I do and what I like. So yeah, I try really hard to make it happen.
And I thank you for that. I appreciate all the hard work that you do with that.
Thank you.
What makes a good sumo song?
Oh, well, I'd like to think all of them are really good. But I mean, if it's a soup, I would say you put in a little dance hall rhythm, you put in a little metal, you put in a little punk, you put in a little screaming, rapping, a little bit of attitude, and I think you mix it all together, and that makes Sumo Cyco delicious.
And finally, what does rock and roll mean to you?
Wow, that's a big question. I mean, rock and roll to me means freedom of expression. It means rebellion. It means empowerment. It means community. It means, a lot of things. It's pretty much my life. And I kind of have found a home in this industry, a home in the music, in the community with rock and roll. And I think it's a really... underestimated, powerful tool for people to come together and feel happy and good about themselves and express themselves. There you go.